In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. The title of this presentation is The Situation in Gaza, Why? So the question that I will ponder upon in this lecture is that why does not Allah, God Almighty, change the situation of Muslims in Gaza? So people see what's happening in Gaza and they wonder why Allah, God Almighty, does not make us victorious. Why Allah, God, is not changing the situation in Gaza. Some people who claim that they know about religion, about Islam, they try to give answers for this, but they're not convincing, and they just try to say to people and to tell them in the past that the angels, they fought with the Muslims. Now, this kind of talk, if you look at what's happening, the real situation is that the Muslims, they are in a very bad state, and clearly that Allah God Almighty is not making them victorious. The question why? Why? That's the big question here. Now this big question is answered in a small verse in the Quran. Small in the sense of the number of words, which is verse number 7 of chapter 47 of the Quran, which reads, O you who believe, if you make Allah God victorious, then He will make you victorious and make your foothold firm. The verse once again, O you who believe, if you make Allah God victorious, then He will make you victorious and make your foothold firm. Now this is a verse in the Quran where Allah God Almighty is telling us the condition that must be satisfied in order that Allah God Almighty will help us as Muslims. So we learn from this verse that the help of Allah God Almighty is conditional. There is a condition that must be satisfied in order that Allah will make us victorious, send angels and help us in endless means. What is this condition? It is stated clearly in the verse, O you who believe, if you make Allah God victorious, then He will make you victorious and make your foothold firm. So we learn from this that in order that Allah will make us victorious, that we need to make Him victorious. So the condition for the support of Allah God Almighty is that you make Him victorious. And this means that you strive to make His word supreme, meaning in a practical sense that you deliver His message to people, you convey His message to people. So you as a Muslim, you have a job, you have a responsibility, which is to convey the Quran, the revelation of Allah God Almighty to people, to teach people the Quran, to deliver the message to people, to make them aware of it. That's your job. You don't do that, and we see that the majority of Muslims, of course there's kind of special cases, but the majority of Muslims, they don't convey the message of Allah God to non-Muslims. They don't do that. And as a result of this, they lost the support of Allah God Almighty to them. So they are left like people on people. The many will defeat the few. The strong will defeat the weak. It becomes like a people on people. So they don't have the support of Allah God Almighty. So let me give an example to illustrate this further. Suppose that there is a company and there is the head of the company or the CEO or the owner of the company, and there are employees in that company. Now suppose that an employee does not do his job in that company. Can he expect that the boss of this company or the head of the company will help him in the time of need? Of course not. So the parable in this example is that the head of the company is Allah God Almighty, and the company is Islam, and the employees are Muslims. And your main job, your main function as a Muslim, Allah tells you this in the Quran in chapter 74 verses 1 and 2, which read, O you enveloped garments, arise and warn. So in this verse we learn that the first order of Allah Almighty to Muslims, your job, your main job in this life is to deliver the message of Allah God to people. So in this kind of company of Islam, you don't do your job, you don't deliver the message of Allah God to people, then you have no right to expect the support of Allah God Almighty to you. You have no right. Suppose that a person enters a company and he didn't do anything for that company, and he goes to the head of the company, you must support me, you must help me. What right do you have to say this? In your human experience, do you experience getting something for nothing? No. So the question again that we started with this presentation, why does not Allah God Almighty change our situation? The reason is that you do not strive to make the word of Allah God supreme. You do not deliver the message of Allah God to people. There are consequences for this. So how to rectify the situation? It's very straightforward, it's very easy. Make your main job in life is to convey the message of Allah God to people, to tell people of the Quran. How you can do this practically? For example, if you are using the internet, you can send my work in my website, show it to people, tell people about it, by email, by making websites, by making videos, by writing in newspapers, by TV shows, by whatever mean you have to deliver the message of Allah to people. Start doing that. If you do that, if you start doing that, then you have the right to expect that Allah will help you and support you. But if you don't do that, and you don't tell people about the Quran, then, as I said, you have no right to expect that Allah will help you. So it's not only the title that you are a Muslim, it's the function. The function should complement the title. If you don't do your function, and the main function before prayer and fasting and pilgrimage and everything else is to deliver the message of Allah God to people, to tell people about the Quran, quite simply. And as I said, that's the only way for us to get out of this difficulty for the Muslims. Then, if you do this, even if you are weak, you don't have the kind of the power, even if you are few in number, but there is a difference now. You have Allah God Almighty to support you, and then all kinds of support you will see from Allah God Almighty, whether angels, using the wind, using rain, using all kind of the means, endless means of Allah God Almighty, but only when you do your job, basically, which is to convey the message of Allah God to people. And to know how to deliver the message of Allah God to people in this day and age, please visit my website at www.quran-miracle.com, and you can email me at zquran@gmail.com, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.